So you're afraid that there's going to be another video game crash? I think we talked about this actually a handful of episodes ago. Like, do we think that there's going to be another crash? And I don't remember what everyone's predictions were. So let's do it again.
Uh,
What are your projections? Do you think that there's going to be another video game crash, and if so, when?
I think it's going to happen. If it's going to happen, it's going to start happening now because we're going to start transitioning to a new generation of consoles. Um, my suspicion is going to be we're going to end up with Xbox is going to have some bespoke hardware. Maybe they'll retain a few of their larger studios, like
I
Halo
forgot to
Studios,
mention
and
there was talk about
yeah,
Xbox spinning off within Microsoft to be its wholly owned, wholly what? Xbox was talking about spinning off to be its own separate subsidiary under Microsoft rather than being a Microsoft entity.
does that mean anything though? Like at
Why?
the end of
I
the
don't know.
day,
I mean, it affects Microsoft's bottom line, but beyond that, I don't know.
I mean, I suspect what the reason they would want to do that is to make Microsoft bottom line look better, right? So,
Probably like to cut off to blah, blah, blah. Let me get my words right. I think it would be a way to like stop the bleeding basically and put the onus on the Xbox brand rather than saying we have an arm that's losing, like
right.
bleeding out or whatever. So let's just cut it off, set it up as its own entity, and then have it conduct business that way and still feed into the company at large.
Right. I mean, that's a decision like that with the way that Xbox is going. It's not because Xbox is doing well and they're trying to make themselves into their own wing. It's so that way they can say, hey, this one, they're their own entity, they're handling their own business. We're not going to devote as many resources and we're not going to count that into
Yep.
our bottom line.
Which is part of like what Asha Sharma's whole thing about coming in now is about. It's about resetting and trying to build the business and the brand and starting off small again. So,
Good stuff.
Mike, your opinion?
My opinion is I hope resetting make does well because I think we are at that inflection point where
Do you think there's going to be a crash?
crash. I think there is going to be a crash. Now, whether or not we're going to recover from it is going to depend on how the companies handle it now.
Yeah.
You know
I
what's
think that
funny
the
is I
land
didn't think about that aspect. I think I also
I,
interrupted you, Sean. Do you think that there's going to be a recovery, or do you think that'll be it?
what I think is going to I don't think there's going to be a crash in the traditional way. What I think is going to happen is we're going to have a severe reduction in AAA games, right? We're going to have a mass close down of studios, and we're going to end up with a bunch of shovelware, right? Um, there'll be some diamonds in the rough. There's going to be a lot of good indie games coming out. There still are, right?
Mhm.
I think what's going to end up happening is they're going to reevaluate their business model and they're going to move away from, especially with the cost of um, memory, chip shortages, tariffs, the fact that AAA games are not selling nearly as well as they used to. I think we're going to see a pivot, and I think the landscape is going to be Xbox is going to whatever Xbox will be is going to have it's going to be a much smaller
Mm.
entity. Um, and it's going to primarily focus on like Xbox Game Pass, so that way you get Xbox and PC. Then Sony, it looks like they're trying to shore up the walls, so they're going to end up being similar to Nintendo,
Mhm.
and they'll accept games from like third party studios and maybe from Microsoft, but they're not going to populate their games on any other storefronts. All of the other storefronts, the Valves, the Epic Games, all they're going to just continue as they're doing and just collect money hand over fist. And all the indie games are going to get piled under because there's going to be a million indie games coming out, a few diamonds in the rough, but no one's going to be making any money on it, and they're going to end up with a whole massive like studio shutdowns.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's going to be a crash, but I don't think it's going to look the same as like the Atari crash.
Hmm.
Right.
Oh, another thing I forgot to mention too, since Xbox games were coming out to the PS5 and stuff like that, there were some rumors about the new Gears of War E-Day game being prepared and ready for PS5, but not coming out anyway. Like it's being held back for an
I can see that
exclusivity
happening.
deal. So,
Yeah.
not surprised. I don't think. You know what's funny is I'm going to be the optimist here, and I'm going to say that there's not going to be a crash. I think there's going to be a severe condensing of things, and we're not going to get all the bells and whistles and fancy things like we have before. We're going to see one or two exclusives, and those are going to be the tent poles for the specific consoles, whether it's Gears of War with Sony or Halo with Xbox. There's going to be specific flagship games and stuff that are going to be that console specific, and you can only get it there. And they're going to try to slowly open the gates for like third party and stuff for some of their studios, so that way they have some money coming in. But everything is going to slow down. But I don't think it's going to necessarily crash. There's just going to
But I
be
don't.
reset is like
Yeah.
the perfect word, but it's not like in the literal sense. It's going to hurt.
Right. Right. I think but I do think that the AAA market it has to change because
I agree.
there are so many tentpole games, and it's like tentpole movies. The movie industry is in kind of a similar space now, where it's like they were, they were releasing 3 Marvel movies a year, 2 Star Wars movies a year, a
Yeah.
couple DC movies a year, and eventually got to a point where people were like, all right, whatever. You have the Ubisofts of the world where they're like every game's going to be an open world game, and people are like, there's no the thing that we're buying is the story, and often the stories are kind of the second thought of thing,
Yeah.
aside from filling a map with a bunch of random fetch quests.
I don't
So,
think gaming philosophy should be the basis of a video game development. It should be story first, but Ubisoft is like, here's the games we make, just fit a story around it.
right, and like,
That was another
I
thing
mean,
I
I
forgot
would,
to mention about Jason Schreier. He's got a really good video about why games cost the prices they do now and how it got to that point, and he goes over like not actual numbers, but with talking with different studios and developers and things, he's got a pretty good idea of what that looks like, and he goes into the rough numbers, and it balloons so quick these days.
yeah, I mean, and it's funny because you have to move units because even when we were gaming back in the SNES days, a game cost $60. Like the
Yeah.
price point hasn't drastically changed over the course of 30 years.
We
It's
talked about
just
this on
we
the
need-
N64 episode.
Right. And it's like at the end of the day, the way you make up that loss is you move units.
Yep.
And
Right.
the way you move units is you get people to buy your console. And
Yep.
the way you get
And
people to buy
consoles
your
are sold at a
console,
loss to begin with for that reason.
I think I don't know if they still are, especially with the price increases that we're running into. I think in the early onset, when you first release a console, it's a loss leader.
Mhm.
But it's afterwards that you end up accumulating money on those hardware sales because after a point, you don't need to make a giant amount. You just maintain a certain stock, and then you
Right.
just deposit that out to your stores.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yes. I like how we went from the Ultima trademark to that. It's a fun little journey.
Because we smart people.
Yeah. We're real smart fellers.
Smart fellers and fart smellers.
It's my own brand.
Ooh la la.
Oh, is that your name?
Yep.
Oh, de butthole.
You defart.
Gross.